Hello? 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 If you can hear this, it's not too late. I've returned to warn you. This is Time Pop, a podcast that discusses time travel and pop culture. There are spoilers. I've seen the future, and nothing is sacred to these folks. Your past, present, and future are sure to be ruined. Even if you could go back in time, as I have, you will never forget what you are about to hear. You've been warned. This is Time Pop.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Welcome, Chrononauts, as we guide you through the experience of time travel using pop culture as our skeleton of an umbrella broken on top of a phone booth. We will be your constants. I am Dez.
And I'm Ari.
And this is Time Pop. Welcome, Ari.
Hi. Yeah, the top of that phone booth was clearly the inside of an umbrella that they just stuck on top.
It's so crazy how things like that jump out more now. Like, I think when I watched this when I was younger, I recognized it, but it wasn't so painfully just an umbrella.
Yeah, well, back in, what was it, 89?
Yeah.
It was probably cool and futuristic and...
Who knows what that? It's travel. They're traveling through time with it. It must be cool.
Yeah.
What are we even talking about, Ari?
We watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
We did, and for full disclosure, we watched, as of now, both Bill and Ted's movies, but of course, not a lot to talk about with Bogus Journey, but we sat down with a group of friends and watched what will soon be the first two movies in a trilogy of the Bill and Ted's Adventure, and I had never seen Bogus Journey, although we'll just touch on that real quick and then not go back to it, but I had never seen Bogus Journey all the way through. Very different movie.
Yeah, I had never seen either.
Really?
Yeah, watching them back to back was interesting.
2019, Bill and Ted's for the first time. Gut reaction.
Silly, obviously, incredibly stupid, silly time travel movie. Time travel with no consequences.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about.
Absolutely. We'll jump right into the facts of
Okay.
this. The facts are that Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter were highly vetted. They went through a lot of people to try to find these two. Like, when you see it, you almost think that they saw these two goofing off and then wrote the movie around it. But this movie was written and they needed the two perfect people to pull it off. And they went through a lot of people, including Pauly Shore, River Phoenix, Sean Penn,
Wow.
and Brendan Fraser were of some of the people that they looked at. Keanu Reeves was found first, and then Alex Winter, he kept showing up to rehearsals early, and it was watching him and Keanu goof off in the waiting room, basically, that formed their bond, and the directors saw them interacting and said, that's our Bill and Ted.
Yeah, they seem like they're just being themselves.
They really are. Yeah, one of the first, when they were shopping this movie around, all of the executives were just like, no one talks like this. Like, no one's gonna watch this because it's too unreal. And when I saw it, because I grew up in Montana, it was just a couple of Californians goofing off in my mind.
Yeah.
So it was obviously a heightened version of goofing off, but I didn't find, even at the time, didn't find anything that over the top with it. This is they just keep coming, another time travel movie where the whole cast is just working hard. They're doing so much. Everyone has 80 plus credits, a lot of TV credits, but a lot of people working very hard. George Carlin, of course, as Rufus. Who else was... Oh, Eddie Van Halen was their first choice because of all the Van Halen references. They wanted him, but it was a little more than they could spend. And from what I've heard, Eddie is not the easiest person to work with, so he probably wasn't giving them a whole lot of options as far as money and time. I've never heard this before. They're credited as the three most important people in the world. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
The three people in the future. At the beginning, when Rufus is about ready to go save the universe by getting in contact with Bill and Ted. Those three people up on the pedestals or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, they are credited as the most important people in the world. They were the dream for that was ZZ Top, which would have been amazing. I am and definitely then was a huge ZZ Top fan. So that would have been amazing. And they were, I can't believe I didn't recognize this. The main gentleman, Clarence Clemens, he was the saxophonist for Bruce Springsteen, which as soon as I saw that, I saw all the Bruce videos in the 80s and I could picture him perfectly on stage. And then Martha Davis from the Motels, which I know I should know better. I don't. I made mark of her because she's a Berkeley, California resident, where this is being recorded, everybody. There you go. Narrowing down our place in the universe. And then Feeway Bill. I don't know if that's his Christian name or not. Feeway Bill is from the Tubes. Another band. Those are two bands. I think the Motels and the Tubes are two of those bands that you've never heard of them, but all of your favorite bands love them.
Interesting.
They were one of those people coming up. And then the only other one, just because I couldn't believe I didn't recognize him right away, or of all the times I've seen this, Genghis Khan was one of the terrorists in Die Hard. And he is obviously one of the terrorists in Die Hard after having that pointed out to me. So there are some facts about the people. The only person so far that I could find besides Bill and Ted that are going to be in the third one is Mom is already credited in the third one. So who knows who she's going to be married to in the third one.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So those are some quick facts. Ari, give us an overview of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for those uninitiated.
Okay, so Bill and Ted are high school seniors who are failing history, and they are not smart people. They definitely
not book smart.
Yeah, they definitely portray these two as really stupid. So they are about to fail history, and if they fail history, okay, this is gonna sound bad. There's Bill and Ted. Which one was Keanu Reeves?
You know what? I wrote it down because I can never remember. I'm gonna actually have to look at my note. Ted is Keanu
Reeves. Okay. Yes. So Ted, I have to write that down. Ted is Keanu Reeves. So if Keanu Reeves, fails history, I guess maybe which means he would fail high school, not graduate. I don't know.
Yeah.
He is going to be sent to military school in Alaska. His dad is very strict and said, if you fail, I am sending you to Alaska. If that happens, then Bill and Ted will never make their band, which is Wild Stallion.
With two Y's, you figure out where they go.
Is it Stallion or Stallions? Is it more than one stallion?
I think it is. I think they're both stallions.
Wild
Bill and
Stallions, which has such a positive message and is becomes such a big band in the future that it changes the future. It creates world peace. It makes the future better. So, in the very beginning of this movie, we see this very futuristic golden crystal orb thing fly into like a futuristic room and then kind of land slowly, and it's surrounded by all these people in robes and weird outfits, and this is the opening of the movie, and then George Carlin is there. And
what's the orb?
It is never explained. So the orb, in the very opening, it's this long crystal shaped, but it's gold orb that lands in the center of this purple room. And then the three people that you talked about earlier, the three most important people,
not ZZ Top,
they look like they're very important people of the future. The main guy kind of looks like he waves his hand and then a glowing ball appears. It looks like magic, and then he shoots it at the crystal, and the crystal changes into the phone booth.
Why do I not recall that? I didn't realize that it's in the wizardry.
Yeah, it looks like magic. It's not science. It's like a glowing orb of magic. It's very quick in the very beginning of the movie. So George Carlin's character basically has to go save the band because the band has to form. So he's got to go help Bill and Ted pass history class. So my question, well, we'll ask questions later. So the phone booth appears in the parking lot of like a 7-Eleven Circle K thing, and George Carlin confronts them and says, whatever he says, I'm going to help you, and Bill and Ted are very skeptical. They're not sure, what's going on or if they're going to believe him. And then all of a sudden, another phone booth just a little bit further back appears, and Bill and Ted walk out of that phone booth and come and talk to Bill and Ted. So Bill and Ted are talking to Bill and Ted, and so the new arrival, Bill and Ted, essentially confirms like, hey, you're gonna go on this great adventure.
Listen to Rufus, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, and confirms you're gonna be okay, showing us, the audience, that this is now a loop. Yeah.
And giving Bill and Ted the push they get right before traveling Bill and Ted show up to, well, I don't even know if we can call them Alpha. I guess so. Yeah, they're hemming and hawing.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. But then their future selves come back.
And basically convince them that they are going to be okay and they should go on this adventure.
What does time traveling Ted say to himself?
Well, to confirm that they are them, they say, what number are we thinking?
69, dude.
Yeah.
No, the wind your watch.
Yeah, don't forget to wind your watch.
Don't forget to wind your watch.
So Bill and Ted are like, okay, this seems legit. Let's go do this. So then they get in the phone booth and they travel down the circuits of history. And it looks like tubes, just really 80s graphics of tubes.
Yes.
And they go on a bunch of adventures and they come across all different kinds of characters and they essentially steal them and put them in the booth and bring them with, and there's zero consequences for this. And they bring them to the present because they're going to use these historical people to pass their history exam, which is like a presentation on a stage in front of the entire school, apparently.
So real quick, the original ending has them giving a small presentation in class and then them going to prom with the princesses, but it didn't have a big enough boom, and that's where the auditorium full of people comes in as a Hollywood push to the end of this movie.
So they bring all these people back to the present. Some funny things happen at a water park involving Napoleon. Some crazy things happen in a mall with all these characters, discovering.
So before we probably forget some of these people and discuss it, we have Billy the Kid, Socrates, Freud, Genghis Khan, Joan of Arc, Napoleon, Beethoven, and Lincoln.
So they steal all those people from the past to bring them to the present in order to pass their history exam, and crazy things happen in a mall and they get arrested. They lock up like Lincoln or something like that. That's right. And they want to get him out and they can't get him out because they need the keys. Yes. So Ted, Keanu Reeves, his dad is like the sheriff or he's a cop. And throughout the movie, or the beginning of the movie, he talks about how he misplaced his keys. And towards the end of the movie, they're trying to get them out of the prison and they need their keys. And this is one of my favorite parts of the movie, is the within the loop theory of time travel. They said, well, we have all the time in the world. We have time travel. Why don't we, after our exam, go back in time, take the keys from before your dad lost them and put them where we need them, which would be right over here behind this sign. Hey, look, here are our keys. Now we can get them out. So that's a fun subject we're going to talk about in a little bit. So anyway, they get them out. They do the presentation. It's this big epic presentation where each of the historical figures talks about themselves, and there's like fire and sparks and like there's like this whole thing. So the show is epic. They pass their history exam and all is great.
Everything works out. The princesses stay with them because they were due to be hanged, I think. So
yeah,
or they were going to marry those ugly dudes.
Yep. So they brought them with to the present. Then they can play instruments. They end up being like the drummer and the guitarist of their band.
Yes. So everyone gets back to, except for the princesses, everyone gets back to their timeline.
Right. So they just return them to the timeline. They weren't clear about that.
They were not at all. And we'll get into that with the higher level discussion. But were any laws?
So the laws of this movie are you type in a number. There's a big phone book in the phone booth and you type in a number and you go there using these tubes and you bring them back to the present. So it seems like it's all one timeline, but removing these historical figures from their time does not affect the future at all. So pulling Lincoln out, pulling Socrates out, once they bring them back to the present, everything is still the same. So, and then returning all of these historical figures to their current time with all the knowledge of everything that they just did and saw also does not affect the present, apparently.
Yeah, I guess that's the only indication we get that they were put back exactly where they came from.
I think
that nothing has changed. I didn't even think about that. If Lincoln doesn't get put back where he's supposed to be, then no one knows who he is.
Yeah, they made it seem like they were just going to put him back when they were done, but all these characters still had the knowledge of what they'd seen in the future. And wouldn't you think that, these guys not being the brightest bulbs in the box, they would maybe help Lincoln by warning him, hey, you're going to get shot? But no, they don't. It was interesting how you could have the door open of the phone booth as you were going through the circuits of history, those tunnels that brought you into the past.
Yeah.
Because even Napoleon just got caught in like the wake and was dragged through the tunnel behind them.
That's right, because I always forget that their original idea is just to go study these people. And then Napoleon gets blasted into the time tunnel, and that's when they have the bright idea, let's just go collect people and bring them here for the report. So, yeah, so there really no, I guess not in the beginning laws are established. Laws are kind of established at the end when Bill and Ted create that loop with the keys. But there's really no, Rufus doesn't say, be careful, don't change anything, leave people where they are.
There's no warning.
It seems like the only thing that matters is that Bill and Ted pass this and Wild Stallions go on to create a greater future, and whatever they have to do to the past in order to secure their future is all good.
I think there's some really quick line that Rufus says about none of this will matter because the future will stay the same. We watched this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
There was, from my fuzzy memory, there is some line that Rufus kind of says where it's like, none of this will matter. It'll all still end up the same, or it won't affect anything. I can't remember what it was, but it was kind of a, Band-Aid explanation of how they can be doing all this.
So, not necessarily on that same vein, but when Rufus is talking to them, the one, I don't know if this is a rule or whatever, the clock in San Dimas is always running. So they can't, they have 18 hours before they have to give their report, and that is going to be 18 hours no matter what. No time travel can affect that clock. So that's kind of an interesting rule or law. How do you think that works?
Meaning that even though they're removing these people from the past, when they return them, it'll still be the 18 hours later?
Well, not who knows about them. I think that does have an effect on them now that you mention it. But, you would think in a time travel movie like this that Bill and Ted would have a month to gather all these people and then use the time machine to land an hour before the report and give it. But they can't. Rufus says the clock in San Dimas is always running.
San Dimas is the city that they are from?
Yes.
Okay.
So when he looks at his watch and he says, okay, we have a report in 18 hours, that's why he reminds himself to wind his watch. Because if that clock
Interesting, because the scene where they need the keys to open the jail, Bill says, we've got time travel. We've got all the time in the world. We'll just go back and get the keys. So that's interesting that...
But they do, but that's still with the San Dimas clock running. So they can do that later, but...
So if they go into the past and they stay there for 30 minutes, 30 minutes will have passed in San Dimas, the city that they are from. Okay.
If they go to the French Revolution for 2 hours, they come back 2 hours later.
Okay.
In San Dimas.
Okay.
How does that work? I mean, obviously they need it. It's for the movie to put a ticking time clock on the film, which is always needed. But as far as time travel goes, where do you feel that leaves us?
That's interesting that they decided to do that for the story, create some urgency for the story. There might be a major hole there because of that line that Bill says. I would need to sit here and think about it because he talked about after we do our presentation, but we'll go back and get the key. But in order to do the presentation, they already need the key. Basically, this is the theory that time is a loop and everything has already happened before. And as soon as you think it...
But has it? Because what?
It has, because remember in the parking lot, they saw their future selves. So their future selves have done all of this already.
But why? If Rufus knows of... Oh, you're right. Okay, I guess... Because, Rufus knows that the future is great. But obviously they've gotten wind in the future of Bill and Ted being troubled in the past. So does that mean the first time this happened, Bill and Ted passed their history exam naturally? And then, because if they... knew they had to go back and help Bill and Ted pass this history exam. Wow, this hurts.
I can see your like eyes glazing over as you try to think about it and figure it out. Yeah, so this is a paradox. This is a loop, right? So this is what you call a bootstrap paradox or a consistent causal loop. You're trying to figure out where's the beginning, right? There is no beginning.
Because it's almost to say that in a post-apocalyptic future, they traced all of the horrors that happened back to this moment in time.
Okay.
And then they sent someone back to make sure that Bill and Ted passed this report. And then that fixed history. And now it's a loop. But how do you realize the first time that this failing of this report is what sets the planet into chaos?
So that's the paradox. So when it comes to this type of paradox, it's called a bootstrap paradox.
Is this a bootstrap?
Yeah.
I remember just reading that.
And
I'm having trouble.
There is no beginning. So if the movie had shown the future people in this post-apocalyptic scenario and tracing it to a moment in the past that would, ensure that they would not become post-apocalyptic, then that would be your beginning. But the movie didn't show that. The movie showed them happy in their future that they have created where everyone doesn't really talk and they're very emotions. Those guys were weird looking.
Because the bootstrap paradox is like Einstein creates a theory of relativity, but he learns it from a time traveler. So then
correct.
Yeah, so their history report is their theory of relativity and Rufus is their time traveler. I don't know why this is so hard for me
It's unusual because the thing that ensures that the future is wonderful and great is that this band stays together and passes on this message of be awesome to each other. Or what does it be?
Be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to each other. That ensures the wonderful future. But in the future, they know of this moment where the band almost didn't happen and they have to send someone back in order to ensure that the band happens for them to get this great future so they can send someone back. It's this loop. So this
so crazy.
Yeah. This is one of the greatest things about time travel is that it creates these paradoxes and you try to think about them. It's the only thing that I know of in life that you think about and your brain, you can feel your brain. You think about it and I can feel my brain thinking and trying to work it out. And it's the greatest feeling to me.
And then it just shreds into the strings of time.
Yeah, and then you get confused and maybe a little bit frustrated, but it's exciting and you just accept the fact that it is what it is. It is a loop that has no beginning and it's a paradox and it makes for great stories.
It's so weird because I was actually eating pizza 2 weeks ago when I watched a YouTube video about the bootstrap theory and it made perfect sense. And I get why this is one, but I don't. This one, for some reason, just falls apart on me.
It's loose. There's a step.
But it is. I mean, it has to be. But I don't know why this movie all of a sudden, because we've talked about it before. And it's okay, what's happened has always happened. I get it. But I don't know. In this movie, my brain won't let go of the fact that there is one timeline out there where this ends poorly for humanity and they have to trace it back and start the loop. Usually I can never see the beginning of the loop, but I can see it very clearly for this movie.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the stories where they doesn't create an alternate timeline. This is one timeline.
Yeah, that's why.
This is one timeline.
That's why, yeah. Because usually they talk about that at some point in the movie, the creating of other, and this one.
In this story, in this universe, the laws of this story are it is one timeline all the way through. But then it makes you question, is the loop just stuck? Are they constantly stuck just doing this, over and over? Or does life go on outside of this loop in this timeline?
Because it's strange that they didn't go back.
Who's they?
Bill and Ted. I don't know why. It seems weird that we never see them in the future. And what is happening in the future? I mean, I guess because Do they discuss at the beginning of this that things are starting to unravel, we need to go fix it? Or is it started like, well, it's time to do the loop?
Yeah, they don't really discuss it. It's a very quick scene and they kind of rush over it. They make it seem like in order for us to have this life that we have, this band has to happen, and to do that they have to pass history. I mean, it's a silly movie. From what I remember, this movie was based off of a skit that two improv students
Really?
created.
Was time travel even part of it? At
I don't
that point,
think so.
It was just too...
From what I saw, some clip that I saw, it was like 2 or 3 improv students who created these like stupid characters who had trouble talking about history, and then from there developed this script. Yeah, so it's a comedy. It's loose and silly. But it's not. Yeah, but within it are some really fun time travel theories and concepts to talk about.
So let's focus on the keys for a minute just to have that conversation.
So really quickly, in the second movie that we saw,
yes,
there's no time travel except for the very end where he's like, but we have time travel so we can think of the cage, and all of a sudden the cage appeared that like trapped him. So they did the same thing in the second movie at the very end. So what that is doing, which is kind of one of my favorite time travel theories, is when it is a loop, you've done this before many times. Even if you think you haven't, you can say, okay, I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to get this thing I need and I'm going to put it in a place for me to get it, for when I get back to this moment, it'll be right there. And there's another, it's either a movie or I was trying to find it, where they did this. And their theory was the minute you think of it and decide to do it, it will literally appear. Because if you have time travel, the minute you're like, I'm going to go back and get this relic, you've already done it, and they will then appear in your hand.
I would like this. I think I would buy this better if they tripped over it. If they didn't actually think of it, if they
discovered it accidentally.
Yeah, like it was placed in front of them.
Yeah.
But I guess if you have to hide the keys, you can't really. It doesn't work for this, but like I'm thinking of like tripping over.
I know what you mean.
Something.
Because the interesting thing about loop stories with time travel is even if you know you're in a loop or that you've done this before, because Bill and Ted know that they've done all this before because they were visited by their past selves, so they know they've done this before. But though the main Bill and Ted that we follow, they only remember what they have done so far in the loop. They do not remember the future. So in a loop, you remember the past, but not the future. So it makes sense that if their future selves went back and got the keys and placed it somewhere, they wouldn't know that, the main ones that we're following. And yeah, if they tripped over them, it would be like, oh, wait, the keys are right here. We must have gone back in time and put them there for us to find. So yeah, it makes sense that if they would just trip over it. But all of a sudden, Bill knows time travel theory and says, hey, we can just go back and, all of a sudden he has this moment of brilliance and figures out, that they can do this.
I had a time machine, I'd have $100 bill in my pocket.
And then it would be there, yeah.
Time travel doesn't exist, people, just keys.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I'm going to go look for whatever it was that I saw this theory in, and we can have an amendment to this episode.
Absolutely.
Or we can do a new episode on whatever that was. But it's a really interesting concept that you just think of it, you decide, and then it appears because you already did it.
They have a lot of work to do.
Who?
Bill and Ted. Between the report and then when we see them jamming with the princesses, they've got to get all these people back to their timeline. They got to steal the keys from their dad. They've got to put, because it's the keys. Oh, and the tape recorder.
The tape recorder, that's right.
They've got to record that message and hide the tape recorder.
And they don't show them doing any of this.
No, they don't.
But in this theory of loop theory, bootstrap theory, it's supposedly how it would work. Because you've done it before, because you already put the keys there, the tape recorder there, the $100 bill, you've done this over and over again, it will already be there, but you won't know that until you decide in that moment to do it, because you don't remember the future, just the past. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah. It's making me think of Paradox a lot. I know that movie didn't rate very high on our list, but of the like I got to do this because I did it, because I got to do it, because I did it.
Yeah. It makes you think of like, is it inevitable? You know,
Yeah.
let's say within one of these loops, Bill and Ted says, hey, I want to try something different. Let's see what happens. Would that change things, or did they always just try something different?
Who knows? Well, we will definitely be revisiting this when Bill and Ted's 3 comes out.
Yeah.
Bill and Ted's Face the Music?
Face the Music. I really
Face the
hope
Music.
that they do a lot of time travel.
Yeah, I think they learned their lesson. But it's either going to be time travel because that was the better movie and they're going to go back to it, or they're going to go, a whole different, just have all 3 movies be something completely different.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't know how else time travel exists in this universe. Like, it's because they don't really talk about it as a thing, really. It's a device used to save humanity. So I guess, I'm trying to figure out how time travel exactly exists in this, because it starts off as this globe. And it seems like if they have this globe, they could make time travel whatever they want. But let's just skip over that. Time travel is this phone booth. You type in a date and you go there.
So it can travel in time and space.
Yes. Do you use it? You're very visible. You fall from the sky. People are going to see you do this.
You asking if I would use this?
Yeah.
So it would be in the same feeling of this movie, right? Lighthearted, silly, no consequences. It would be in the same, context of it's a loop. So, I mean, unless you're just isolating the phone booth and making it, quote unquote real in our world, would I use it? I mean, I would, of course. I'm not going to say no to time travel ever. I think you ask me this question every episode and it will always be yes, I will use it. But
now, can they? Well, no, because they do travel to their house. I was wondering if they can only travel to famous points in history, because is there a phone number for every date on the planet, or is it a phone book that takes you to historic events that take place?
It's not clear.
It's not.
I get the sense that it takes you to historic places in history. They showed up at the Circle K 7-Eleven thing. Like, why did they show up there?
I think that was an accident. Wasn't that when they were trying to fix it and that was kind of an accident?
I don't know.
I don't think they dialed that number. I think that was when it broke, and it was either right before it broke for good or right after they fixed it.
Oh, that's right. The little antenna part of the time machine broke and they all fixed it with bubblegum. So it seems like they can only travel to the past.
Rufus gets home. Well,
Bill and Ted only travel to the past.
It's a history report.
Yeah, they never use it to go to the future.
They do. Remember, they do land in the future that one time.
Bill and Ted do?
Yeah.
Where? When?
With the 3 people. Remember when they're surrounded, the 3 most important people in the world?
Bill and Ted go there?
Yeah.
When? In the first movie? I don't remember that.
Again, it was kind of an accident, and they don't.
Oh, yeah, and they
do the guitar strum.
Yeah.
Because everyone else recognizes them.
That's right. They do, for a quick second, go into the future. All right. So, yeah, this time machine can do it all. So to answer your question, yes, of course I would use it. My first response would be to go to the future. I'm definitely, I'm the futurist. But yeah, I would think I would use it. If there's no consequences to showing up in a phone booth, in an 80s phone booth in the past, sure, why not? I'd use it.
I would, because of course, but reluctantly. I would be much more careful with this.
Here's a better question. What famous historical figure would you want to go to the past and bring to the present?
Ooh, now we're talking. Wow. I don't know.
Okay, well, my first answer, the first thought in my head would be Einstein, so that he could see that his theory of... I'm going to get this wrong because I am not a scientist. To see the actual picture we took of a black hole, because it was all theory when he discovered it, and to I believe it was Stephen Hawking, who recently just passed away, but to bring him now to see the picture of the black hole and the big science experiment that recorded the gravitational waves. What's that thing
The
called?
Hadron Collider?
I don't know if it's a collider, but it essentially picked up on two enormous black holes way out in space colliding. It sent waves through the universe. We picked up on those waves. Anyway, to bring them to the present to show them like, hey, you were right. Look what we've done. Aren't you proud? So that would be my first instinct. It would be Einstein and Hawking. Bring them back.
Da Vinci?
Ooh, Da Vinci.
Da Vinci.
Galileo. I would love
Galileo.
to sit down and have a Italian talk with Galileo if I spoke Italian.
That's crazy that I don't have... There's no historical figure that I'm immediately drawn to.
No famous actor or actress, musician.
I guess I'm trying to go too far back. I like your idea. Yeah, someone, I guess in the same vein as you, Da Vinci's a good one just to see, so you could bring someone forward to see all of their theories that kind of panned out a little bit.
Yeah.
I would love to bring some jerk to the future to show them that they lost, you know?
Yeah.
Some ancient religious figure that died swearing that the earth was at the center of the universe and we're all crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would just use it to prove people wrong all the time. Just go, see, you were wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm horrible. All right, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Dun, dun, dun. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to Time Pop. Tell a neighbor or a friend about it so you can enjoy a discussion of your own on the topic of time travel. Enjoy some time travel, people. Please check out Sounds Awesome 9216.com. That's soundsawesome9216.com to hear what else sounds awesome. If you would like to add to the discussion, please email us at timepop9216. That's timepop9216@gmail.com, and tell us your thoughts about this particular depiction of time travel and how you might use it. And definitely let us know about a time travel movie, book, game, etc. that we might discuss on a future episode. And if you would like to start your own discussion on the topic, please head over to Face, Insta, Twitter book. We're at tpop9216. That is at tpop9216. And now back to the big finish.
Excellent.
Be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to each other, everybody.
I'm Desmond McNeese.
And I'm Ariel Gala.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye. That was my guitar solo.